this nation has placed its destiny in the hands and heads and hearts of its millions of free men and women.
When I first heard the speech as such, I had this feeling, well, this is one of the historic moments I witnessed.
Today, thinking of our children and of their children, we oppose enforced isolation for ourselves or for any other part of the Americas.
To hear that the voice of my grandfather, so full of purpose and energy, it rings in my ears. I can hear him say it, even when I'm not listening to the recording. And it inspires.
As a nation, we may take pride in the fact that we are soft-hearted, but we cannot afford to be soft-headed.
You can't help but be moved because you know that this is coming from a place in his heart directed to not only the people of the United States, but as he stated, to people everywhere in the world.
The four freedoms are very positive guidelines for every one of us to do the good things in life, to think what's worth, what's the value, what's human dignity, and what's the right thing to do.
Freedom means the supremacy of human rights everywhere. Our support goes to those who struggle to gain those rights and keep them.
Die Jugend ist uns verschrieben und verfallen mit Naivität.
What Roosevelt proclaimed was, when this war is over, we should look for a future where certain principles should be upheld everywhere in the world.
To a world founded upon four essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world.
It was meant to set the framework for terrible suffering, for efforts and striving to bring the world to a better place.
There was a very small ceremony that occurred every so many years by a group called the Roosevelt Foundation. But because it was the centennial, and because we all were thinking particularly about these four freedoms, it was determined that it would be very special to have a ceremony that not only recognized the speech of President Roosevelt and perhaps an individual who related to that speech in his life's work or her life's work, but to have a ceremony which recognized each of the four freedoms individually. And that was agreed upon by the Commission with great enthusiasm. But it was also agreed that it would be particularly meaningful to have that fourth ceremony in the Netherlands, in Zeeland.
And Zeeland, because of the fact that the ancestors of the Roosevelts came from this province, from Zeeland. They immigrated in the 17th century to the New World. They sailed to the New World. And so in Zeeland we are very proud. We have the Roosevelt family as our family.
I think it was a part of that connection to this immigrant status that the Roosevelt family represents, to go back to the origin, where our family began.
And that first ceremony indeed took place here, and of course, Princess Juliana was our first Four Freedoms Medal.
Du bist aller Dinge frei bei Gott durch den Glauben.
When my husband was killed by violence, millions of people showed through their sorrow what sort of world they longed for.
Our world continues to have a majority made silent by the frustration of poverty.
To be afraid of violence and death was a dominant feeling, and the generation of fear and the most effective weapon of dictatorship.
I believe the basic human nature is compassionate, or more affectionate nature. Therefore, human basic nature, I believe, in gentleness.
Apartheid used religion unashamedly for its nefarious end. It approved of religion and of the churches when these supported apartheid.
Up to now, globalization favors the rich and the mighty and does not address one of the most devastating assaults on human dignity, poverty.
FDR is a hero and a constant source of inspiration to all of us who work at the United Nations.
It is estimated that every day more than 20,000 people die because they are too poor to stay alive. They die of causes that could actually be addressed for relatively modest investment.
And when violence and warfare become chronic in a region, then religion often gets sucked into the mess and becomes a part of the problem.
Corruptie, corruptie, corruptie.
Poverty strips a person of his or her humanity, and poverty takes away their freedom.
To worship freely is to breathe.
I had two options, only two options. Either to remain silent and wait to be killed, or to speak out and then be killed.
Freiheit ist alles andere als selbstverständlich. Freiheit ist zerbrechlich und Freiheit ist nicht vor Missbrauch gefeit.
Free from want and free from fear. I trust we will prevail. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank. Herzdicke bedankt.
We haven't reached the goals. No. Freedom from fear. At this very moment, more than ever, there is the fear for terrorism. Freedom from want. Forget it. So many people still living while their basic needs are not met. Freedom of expression. Look at the many countries in which the press still has enormous difficulties, and freedom of religion. People are murdered because they want to change religion. So there's still a lot to do.
Yes, I mean, there's enormous work still to be done. Is it disappointing that we haven't reached that goal of perfect freedom? Of course, wouldn't we all like that? But it's the concept that brings us back to the work. And the work has honor, and that is what we need to be doing.
And it's not only international or national. Sometimes the best renewment and the best way of improvement starts at local levels. So the 4 freedoms are guidelines for you and me.
Our strength is our unity of purpose to that high concept. There can be no end save victory.